In this morning's Business Insight, earlier we told you that presidential candidates Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump made campaign stops in Cincinnati last week. This weekend, Labor Day weekend, is often viewed as the traditional kickoff to the political campaign season, which might sound a bit odd considering the long presidential primary season. Whether viewed as the kickoff or a clear indication that the end is in sight, this is a key weekend for our political process. Joining us with some insight is Dr. Jean Beaupre, a political science professor at Xavier University and longtime political guru. He is with Business Watch producer Kelly Leon in the studio. Jean and Kelly.
Thanks, Peg. So Jean and I have been friends and colleagues for 20 years, so this is especially exciting for me to get to talk to you in this capacity. And everybody who knows Jean knows if you want to talk politics, how much time do we have?
Right.
Okay, let's start with Labor Day. Talk a little, like, this is the traditional kickoff. Why is that?
I think it's traditional in Ohio and certainly in Cincinnati. And, you know, there's two ways to look at politics, or two sides of politics. One is the labor side and the other is the white-collar side. And so labor, in some respects, is much more organized. And this is the opportunity for labor, traditionally Democratic, to have they have a picnic at the labor down at Coney Island, and I mean everybody who's anybody that's leaning on the Democratic side shows up. I've seen candidates who couldn't come have a statue up with an arm that would go like this when people drove by when they came. Literally, I mean that's the case.
Yeah.
So that's a big, and you know the white collar part of it is much more diffused and more difficult to deal with. But this is the kickoff.
So if labor is the traditional, correct me if I'm wrong, if labor is the traditional Democratic base, is the corporate community the traditional Republican base? And if so, how are these two untraditional presidential candidates this year having an impact on those bases?
The second question, I don't know if I can answer. The first question is, white collar, yeah, I mean, it's corporate America. There's no question about that. It's people who probably draw a salary instead of a wage, you know, an hourly wage, that sort of thing. And as I say, it's more diverse and in some ways more difficult to communicate with. Others would argue that it's easier to communicate with because they're more receptive to a message.
So let's get specific then on the presidential race.
Right.
Ohio is a key state.
It is.
No matter what. But how are you viewing this race with these two untraditional candidates? We heard from them earlier in the program. Of course, Clinton and Trump, but do I have to name them? What's the sense? How can they win Ohio? What should they be doing?
Before we went on the air, I was telling you that I started with George McGovern, and I've never seen a race like the one we're doing now. I mean, it's just, I am glad that I don't have a candidate that I'm trying to convince, you know, the public to go for. I've never seen it so volatile on both sides. There's a number of voters who say I'm going on either side, but I'm holding my nose when I vote. I mean, how, if you're a campaign manager and you're going door to door, what's the kind of message that you deliver? We're at a point in time in the campaign, Labor Day is a good benchmark, where it's now go back to your base, make sure they're solid, make sure they show up. Well, that's a little problematic right there. And then get to the swing that you can still convince to come out for you. I mean, usually that's a very formulaic way to do it, and you know, there's simple directions to do it. And now it's, you know, you do research and you do the numbers, but it's going to be very tough. I think the first thing is that the campaigns have to get their base out, and it'll take a lot of work to do that.
Yeah, because
there's people crossing over.
The base is, yeah, it's
right.
So not to put you on the spot, but you've been doing this since George McGovern, which I said 72. You said it could have been even 68. That's another question. What's your prediction? What do you think is going to happen? Do you even want to venture a guess? Because I've had people say to me, oh, can Trump really win? And I said, I didn't think Trump could get the nomination. So don't ask me. I don't know anything.
Yeah. I think I would not be comfortable with any prediction. I would say that from the day Trump stepped into the race, my feeling was, I have no idea where this is going. And I don't know that now, and I don't know what will happen in the time that remains. Hillary Clinton seems to be a more predictable model, but there's some question, I guess, about, well, I forget, because I guess I'm just used to thinking about this, first woman president in the United States.
Right, yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the
Yeah.
impact of that is on the electorate.
Yeah.
I can't think that it would affect her base, you know, but we're fighting in the swing vote here with both candidates, and that's, I mean, if somebody who knows the numbers, that's
Yeah.
what it is today. I don't know what it'll be tomorrow.
Yeah, well, we could talk about this forever, and we got to cut it off. But Gene, thanks so much for being here, and I know you're going to be talking about this in your classes and watching it
Right.
closely. What an interesting time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gene.